It started with a letter taped to my gate. Bright red ink, stamped with urgency, fluttered in the dry Texas wind. 72-hour notice to vacate and sell. The headline screamed at me like a slap across the face. I stood there, boots still muddy from feeding my horses, my old border collie Duke, barking in confusion. The ranch had been in my family for 3 generations. And now some HOA with a shiny new office down the road was telling me I had to sell it to make room for a luxury community expansion project. I laughed. At first. Then I walked back into the house, poured a cup of coffee, and felt my hand tremble. This wasn't a joke. Let me back up a bit. My name is Cole, and I own Whispering Pines Ranch just outside of San Antonio. My granddad built the first barn with his bare hands in 1952. My dad added the cattle fencing in the 80s. And I spent the last 20 years turning this place into a haven for rescue horses, war veterans looking for therapy, and kids who needed something real to believe in. Then came the HOA. It started innocent. A few miles down the road, a developer named Trevor Langston bought up old farmland and put up the estates at Canyon Ridge. All brick mansions, golf carts, HOA rules about what color your mailbox could be. I didn't care. Let them have their little utopia. But as they expanded, they wanted more land. My land. I'd gotten offers, rejected every single one. Apparently, they got tired of asking nicely. The letter gave me 72 hours to comply, claimed the ranch violated new zoning standards passed by a council I wasn't even invited to vote on, said I had to sell or face daily fines of $5,000. I called their office. A receptionist gave me a smug chuckle and said, "It's nothing personal. The community is just growing." That night, I walked the perimeter of the ranch under the stars, the same walk my dad used to take when he couldn't sleep. I thought about my family, the kids who learned to ride horses here, the veterans who cried when they held the reins for the first time. I thought about my wife, Sarah. She passed away 3 years ago. I'd promised her I'd never let the place be destroyed by city greed. That's when I knew I wasn't going to sell. I was going to fight. And I had a card they didn't know I could play. See, a few years back, a friend of mine, retired judge, helped me restructure my ownership when I started doing nonprofit work on the ranch. Legally, I converted a large section of the outer ranch into a private trust and leased it back to the HOA themselves. Yeah, ironic, right? The HOA had unknowingly built their fancy gate entrance, tennis court, and 2 townhome buildings on land they leased from me for $1 per year. Long-term agreement, signed, sealed, and filed at the county office. Why? Because I wanted to help the community at the time. They promised they wouldn't try to expand into my main ranch. But now, that lease had a clause. If they ever tried to force me off my land, I could raise the lease price. To any rate, I saw fit, effective immediately. With my attorney's help, I filed the paperwork the next morning. I tripled their rent overnight. Then I hired a local billboard company to put up a massive sign at the entrance of the estates. Welcome to Canyon Ridge, now paying $750,000 per year to the rancher you tried to evict. The calls came flooding in. Trevor Langston himself showed up at my gate 3 hours later in a black Escalade, sweating through his tailored shirt. He tried to play tough at first, said he'd take it to court. I handed him a copy of the lease he signed 3 years ago and smiled. I told y'all before, I'm not selling. Now y'all can pay for the privilege of being my tenants. He tried to lower the rent, tried to offer a buyout, even threatened to sue. But the clause was airtight. Even their own lawyers admitted it. He left cursing under his breath. In the weeks that followed, the HOA board panicked. Homeowners were furious. Some started suing the HOA for not doing due diligence. Others backed me, said they admired what I did. A few even sent me cookies. Meanwhile, my story hit the local news, then national. I got letters from people across the country, farmers, veterans, single moms, thanking me for standing my ground. Some shared stories of how their own communities had been bulldozed for profits. One Vietnam vet wrote, "Greater than you didn't just protect your ranch, you gave people like me hope that we still matter." That letter made me cry. A month later, the HOA formally dropped their claim to my land. They tried to negotiate again, but this time I told them there'd be no more deals. I ended the lease agreement entirely, forced them to vacate the buildings that sat on my trust land. Without access to their own gates and courts, their luxury community lost value fast. Property sales stalled. The development halted. And me, I expanded Whispering Pines, opened a new writing program for autistic children, brought in more rescue horses, hosted weekend events with local farmers and musicians, even turned one of the old barns into a free tutoring center. The ranch wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. The lesson: never underestimate the quiet folks, the ones who build with their hands, love with their hearts, and stand their ground when it matters. I didn't just save my ranch, I reminded a whole town that real power doesn't come from money or shiny gates.